Now, yesterday, we promised you an interview with the Minister of Zongo and Inner Cities Development. So, here it is, Mama V. Owusu Abuaje and Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Boniface.
Today, we've come to the Zongo Inner Cities Development Minister. We're visiting his constituency. He's also a member of parliament for Medina. So here we are with Alhaji. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for meeting us. But one of the conversations that we want to have with you is what has happened in the aftermath of the rains. And the rains is here. It's been raining in some parts of Accra even today. I understand that you recorded quite a number of casualties. What happened?
In fact, the rains have caused a lot of havoc and disaster in my constituency. A lot of houses have been pulled down by the rain, walls giving way because of the force of the water. And unfortunately, when you go, you find out that a lot of people have built on the waterways. And so the water is like a snake. You never can block it. It will find its own way. And so yesterday we visited more than 10 areas. Zongo, Washington, Chicago, Teman, Sakura, Pantai. And the destructions there, very, very enormous. It's so saddening. And unfortunately, part could be the responsibility of stakeholders, part could be the responsibility of the residents themselves. Because sometimes they throw in rubbish, discarded items into the drain. And so get the drains choked. And when it's choked, what happens is that when there's so much water in the drain, it overflows its banks and then find a way out. This is exactly what happened yesterday. Now you go to North Legon, most of the residential walls have gone down. And in Zongo, around Washington, we lost 2 lives. A baby was being given to somebody to rescue. And unfortunately, he slipped into a drain and he lost grip of the child. So the child went, but the man who was trying to save also got himself hurt. A second person too lost his life. So all these things, we don't know. Losing a life is like losing a generation, and it's so disheartening. Where we're standing, you look at this drain, for the past 8 years, it has not been desilted. So as soon as we came, I've reported this matter to Ministry of the Line Ministry, that is Ministry of Works and Housing. I've reported that to the Minister. And Hydro, which is a department under Ministry of Works and Housing. They have factored this in their budgets. Currently, it's under procurement. And when it's under procurement, you have nothing that you can do. I was even planning to have excavators hired from my own means to see a temporal desilting till the government itself comes to do.
In your capacity as a minister or as a member of parliament?
In my capacity as a member of parliament, not as a minister. First of all, at least I have little money, not from my pocket, but at least I have something from my common fund and social infrastructure fund. At least I can put them together to make sure that we open up. You see, here we are standing downstream. Upstream is not desilted. This place is not desilted. So whenever it rains, a whole place gets flooded. Now because it has not been desilted, you can see that grass is also another obstacle. You can even have pawpaw and other trees growing inside the drain. So what happens? It means that they become obstacles to any flowing water.
But you said this has not been desilted for the past 8 years. Are we now recognizing it because the rains are in? What has happened in the last few days, for instance?
Exactly. Fortunately, if you recall, I was one time Minister for Works and Housing during President Kufuor's era. And normally this particular drain, 2-3 months before the rain set in, I get all drains in Greater Accra desilted. Those who don't know, we have 9 main prone areas that flush Greater Accra. So if it happens that there's going to be a very strong rain, very heavy rain in Accra, and it happens to fall in these 9 areas, the whole of Greater Accra will be submerged. So we should never pray that we have rains that will cover the whole of Greater Accra, because it's so difficult. In fact, I've been discussing with the World Bank. Yesterday we had a wrap-up. I couldn't go for the meeting because of this. And as Minister for Inner City, I need to identify such things. And currently, for those who don't know, in the past, when it rains in Greater Accra and happens to rain in Aburi, when it rains in Aburi, it takes 12 hours for the water in Aburi to get into Greater Accra. Today, as I speak with you, if it rains, it takes 4 hours, maximum 4.5 hours, and Greater Accra is flooded. Most of the places that were flooded, that submerged to the water, we have places like Sakura, PNT, Pantine, Adenta, because they are very close to Aburi. So very fast, they are the first victims. Yesterday we were there. We go to Pantine village. The whole place was submerged. Some houses, you couldn't even walk. You go to Terman, the same thing happened. You know,
so what's the cause of this? Is it the fact that the drains have not been desilted?
Sure, it's part of it. Because you see this drain, if you can see that it is almost close to the level of the drain, that tells you the drain is about 12 to 14 feet down. But now if you measure, it's less than 6 feet up. So it tells you that we need to desilt all these things out. And unfortunately, one of the disasters has to do with the fact that when it is desilted, they don't collect the sand and dispose it off. They leave it. So when the rains fall, it pushes the sand back into the drain. In fact, my ministry could have done this easily. Unfortunately, our budget is not enough. Kumasi, we have a place in Abu Asawasi, we call it Palili. For 12 years, it was not desilted. As soon as I came, the little budget I had, because I had identified that place, I went, got the whole place desilted. For 1 week, continuously it was raining. They never experienced any flooding. So it tells you that we have the ideas, we have all the strategies to solve these problems, but sometimes we are handicapped because resources are in scarce.
So what it says is that in your own constituency, you are not able to replicate what you did, that you're telling us you did in Abu in Kumasi.
Sure. The point being that I don't want to be so selfish. I've sent people to do what we call baseline assessment. And then after that, we do needs assessment. This falls under that. For example, when I was constructing the turf park. People said I was a bit greedy, but that one I wasn't greedy because I justified it. The fact that anytime Black Stars players are called, not less than 5 people come from Medina. So it tells you that we are endowed with a lot of human resource with respect to football. So I'm justified. This place too, I wouldn't be surprised if I collaborate with Ministry of Works and Housing, Ministry of Sanitation, Ministry of Local Government. We'll come together, we can get the whole place desilted. Okay. It's a matter of sitting and seeing what each ministry should bring, and then we can...
Can we give ourselves some timelines here, since this is crucial? When would we get this work done?
Well, to your information, I had put this thing before Works and Housing, right from the time we came. Right now, this particular drain is under procurement. It's about 3.5 million Ghana cedis. So I'll be very glad if you could check on Works and Housing, especially under Hydro. This falls under
But this is your constituency. Whatever happens to any of your constituents affects you directly.
Sure, and that is why I followed up, because I know what I'm doing. When I was a minister, I wasn't even a member of parliament for Medina, but I got these drains in Medina desilted 2-3 months before the rains set in. But I'm handicapped. I can identify the areas. It is the responsibility of the ministry. The ministry too is handicapped because it has no budget. But right now, we are fortunate they've made allocation. So they are doing the procurement. And I believe that within the shortest possible time, and even seeing what is happening, the contractor must come on site before they finish with their...
I was just going to say that you're very experienced. Indeed, you've done this before. So how long do you think it would usually take?
For procurement, under normal circumstances, in emergency cases, it shouldn't take you more than 2-3 weeks.
Is this an emergency?
This is emergency because the rains are yet to set in. This is just a comedy. This is the beginning, a warning sign. This, in conflict resolutions, we see, early warning signs. You see, so this is an early warning because it could be an emergency case. This is a security issue because all those staying along the banks of the drain are in danger.
Now, we see there's a makeshift bridge, but it's connecting two schools. There's a school here, there's a school there.
Yeah, this is the GSS and this is the primary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it rains, how do these kids manage?
In fact, to be honest, it's so saddening when it rains daytime because they find it difficult to use this bridge. Some of them have to walk back and connect to the area we call Insamompum, that's social welfare, before they begin to trace their homes or houses. So it is something serious. First of all, we need to secure the school because whenever it rains and the drains get full, it overflows its banks and gets into the school. Both schools are in trouble. So it is a very heavy task for us. First of all, to secure the school itself and ensure that when it rains, it doesn't overflow its banks into the school. And even if it rains into the school, we should find a way of making sure that the land is well secured. Because it looks muddy. There's so much laterite here. And so it is something that we need to find a way of either putting pavement blocks to secure the place for them, which is very important,
How soon are we talking? What you're saying is all well and nice. How soon are we doing this? Because the rains will not wait for the project to be complete.
First of all, this falls under Inner City and Zongo as part of my programs. I'll commit my people immediately to come maybe tomorrow to come and do a proper assessment. And then we are lucky the president has inaugurated the governing body. And then this will have to be put before them. And we see what little we can get to at least secure the school for them.
So ready, you have funds for that?
I'm sure we have a budget. And so it is not something that can prevent me from doing it.
Okay.
Yes.
But when you say secure the school, what exactly are you talking about? Can you paint a picture?
You look at the first building, this place has if you look at the sand, it has a lot of salt in it. And so it keeps eating into the blocks. So if you don't secure the land properly by putting pavement blocks, because the soil, there's not so much aeration in the sand. It's so compact. You have a lot of laterite clay. And so when it rains, the water collects. It doesn't seep down. So it will definitely affect access, and even getting into the classroom will be a problem. So the best thing we can do is maybe find a way of cementing it or getting slabs to cover the whole school so that it will look quite decent for the school children.
When can I come back to check?
Well, to be honest with you, give me about 2-3 months for the school in terms of the budgeting, because you know what budgets means. Sometimes you have the money. Maybe my office has already gone around and done certain things, so you need to move resources from one place to the other to make sure that they are really convinced that we are not just developing Medina, but we are securing people's lives.
You have a huge task at hand. You're still working with a certain budget of 3.5. I wonder how you're going to use that to solve all these problems.
Well, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. First of all, let me thank Allah the Almighty that this disaster in this school did not affect the school children. Because if it had happened in the daytime when they were in the classroom, I'm sure this country would have been in a bad situation. But we are lucky that it happened in the night when nobody was in school. However, having said that doesn't mean that we should not be thinking about them, because I believe these children, they are our future. They are economic assets of this country. And so immediately we need to do our best to come and salvage the school, because I think about 2 classrooms are gone. But we'll do our best. However, where I was mentioning the 3.5 has to do with the Maya Hot drain. Other drains are there. We have Rees, we have the Action drain, about 5 drains, but they've been costed differently. I hope and pray that the Ministry of Works and Housing will effect action within the shortest possible time. to save the situation. Because having gone round, you saw it yourself. It's so pathetic. People's properties have been destroyed. But, well, so long as they've been giving their lives, I'm sure the future still looks bright. So we have no problem about that.
What's the final decision with the Lutheran school, where the authorities, the school authorities themselves, as we saw with the drains, they were trying to do something about the situation?
Yeah, I've advised them to get in touch with the Municipal Assembly or Hydro of Ministry of Works and Housing, because though they are doing their best, exhibiting their corporate social responsibility to help the community, but my advice to them is that don't try to please a group and then create another agony for another group. So, but if you have the good engineers on their side, they will advise them how to do it such that the drains, the downstream will not be heavily affected. And I believe they understood what I said. It's good. I appreciate what they are doing. But for now, I advise that they should curtail it, meet the assembly, the municipal chief executive, the assemblymen, the engineers, then they'll sit down and take proper discussions and be able to come out with a better conclusion. That will save all of us.
What's the assurance that it won't be unnecessary bureaucracies in the way? Because this is a project that they clearly want to see, it done.
I don't think it's a big challenge. It's a challenge, though. I think if they understand us proper, we have to reach a consensus. And no one will want to frustrate them at all. There's nothing like frustrating anybody. But we must do a job, and that job must be done and done well.
And that is the reality of life in some of the Zongo communities scattered across the country. Mamavi getting to grips with the matters there with the Minister for Zongo Development.